Hi guys, and welcome to the 31st episode of Dreamers and Doers. And today I am with Lucy Preble.
I'm not sure that looked as cool as what I thought it was going to look.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool.
Thanks for having me, Alex.
No worries. So I met Lucy. We actually went to an orphanage together.
Yeah.
Which is a really beautiful experience with
It
very,
was
very happy
amazing.
kids there. And I met you there. And yeah, I was pretty amazed at how intuitive you are. Like you can kind of read quite a bit, people and manifest things. It's just like you're in a flowy state. That as quite a learner and doer, I sometimes admire, which is really cool. And also like I've looked a bit. So you used to have a marketing company, and you've been quite into the doer achiever part, and now you're more established into being, right?
Yeah. Well, he's kind of taught me a lot of that.
So can you tell us just a little bit about your story in the first place?
Yeah, so my story. So I guess where do I start? I guess I'll start from kind of the foundational pillar of me. And my story, that's not really my story anymore because I've released that a lot. But pretty much I was a crazy, energetic child. They tried to put me on Ritalin, and my mum, thank God, was kind of like, she's a child, let her be. And I went to all these different schools. I went to alternative schools like the Rudolf Steiners and public school, private school, all these schools, and I got kicked out of majority of them. So I was always kind of this like naughty kid, like trying to fit into this. I was this circle trying to fit into like this kind of square hole. And I did a pretty good job at it because I kind of knew how to manipulate the system a little bit. And whenever I'd get suspended or nearly expelled, I'd come back in and I'd be like, I'm so sorry that I did that. And my self-awareness is always kind of been quite good, so I always kind of manipulated that. And then when I left school, I decided that I didn't want to work for anyone, so I went and did a business degree. And then straight out of my business degree, I got a job working for a business coach. Ended up working with him for about 4 years. We took his business. It was initially just him and I, and he was earning like next to no money. And we took his business. We like 20 times his business in X amount of years. And then grew a team under me. He gave me a lot of creative control, and
so what were you doing to grow his business?
So I was just pretty much everything, all marketing things, but he also was building another business, so he gave me a lot of control and allowed me to kind of learn throughout the process. And he was in the middle of selling other businesses and this, that, and the other, and he'd pull me into the meetings because he saw how heavily I'd learn and how much I was just so hungry to learn and to do. Like I was doing 70-hour weeks for him on like salary with this promise of big money at the end, but to be honest, it's not why I was running. I realized that I was kind of running towards those goals because I wanted to prove something to myself, and then when I kind of did, I wanted to prove something to everybody that I kind of loved around me. And then I went and took a 4-month break, went and traveled like all South America, kind of opened up my mind a little bit more, walked back into the office. And
do you feel like people should take these kinds of big breaks?
100%. It's so important because what we don't realize is we pretty much win gene pool lotto. If we're from the first world, if we're from, what is France the second world?
I think
that they say that it is, but no way. I definitely think that it's a first world.
I think so too.
But New Zealand I'm from New Zealand, definitely a first world. America, like all these places. Like majority of us are from. We're very, very lucky. We hit the gene pool lotto just being born. I'm not sure if you know much about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but straight away we're already at about the middle point. We don't have to worry about water. We don't have to worry about food. We don't have to worry about where to sleep. We already have all that stuff. And traveling allows you to go do that. I went to South America, I went to Cuba. Like Cuba is completely eye-opening. Like they just bought Coca-Cola in a year before. I
think traveling is so important for people to just have a bigger perspective
100%,
on everything.
100%.
And then when did you start your company, GSE Enterprise?
Yeah, so pretty much came back from South America from that trip, 4 months, and walked in the office super excited, and I was made redundant because while I was away, I'd actually made him a heap of money. And he said that I'd systemized the process and the business so well that he could actually bring someone in on like 1/8 of what he was paying me, because I built the business from scratch and I had all of these kind of KPIs that I was hitting, and he was actually having to pay me quite a lot of money. And obviously I was frustrated and pissed off and resentful, and I moved into a state of like victim, like poor me, like what an asshole.
Okay, and so then you started your own business.
Yeah, then I started my own business. I kind of got over that, like pissed off, frustrated, rung all my friends. They all said it was a blessing in disguise because I'd probably outgrown that company. And yeah, I then within a couple of weeks, funnily enough, I was full with clients that have been trying to work with me for a long time, and I kept saying no to.
Okay.
Because I was working with someone else, and I've always been really loyal and integral. So, and then I kind of became like a glorified marketing manager for a handful of coaches.
Okay. And I had a look at your website, and at the time it's really get shit done. You can do it, like very motivational.
Yeah.
Which I feel is usually the first part of personal growth, which is you can do it, like fight your way through the hustle.
Yeah.
And so that was that where you were at the time?
Yeah, 100%. So a lot of the learnings that I was so lucky to be put in that position with my boss, because he was very masculine and in that do space, right? And he had gone to America and gone to all the the Tony Robbins and all the workshops and this, that, and the other. So he was feeding me that information at university I didn't learn anything. I kind of just learned how to. It was a big thesaurus lesson. It taught me jargon, marketing and business jargon, and it also taught me how to structure my days. And but then when I actually started working, that's when I really started learning. So, and a lot of his education was do.
Yeah.
So I consumed the do. And.
But do you think that was a good thing though?
100%. Like 100%. Like it served me up until the point where I realized that I was able to take a step back, look back, kind of breathe and go, okay, so for 8 years I've been doing that. I've been progressing, but I'm making small progressions based on what I know I'm capable of. I have contacts all around me that I'm not actually like tapping into in a way that I should. Like I kind of felt like I was hiding. Like I've had my business for 2.5 years and I've never marketed it.
Okay.
It's because I've always been so busy, and I feel like I've been the one doing everything, because I am capable of doing everything, but I don't need to do everything.
Okay. And so what's the risk kind of doing too much, being too much in doing? What gave you the motivation to be like, I want to be more in being, and maybe what does it mean first?
Yep.
Being more established in being, maybe.
Yep. Okay.
And why did you go more this road now?
Okay, cool. So that's an awesome question, because I was
Well, that's an important for me, because I know I'm a lot into doing.
You're a man. It's a masculine thing. And I was in a very masculine space, and I'm not sure if you can pick up on it, but I'm not really in a masculine space anymore. Even like just flowing, like it's I don't know, it's changed a lot. And I guess Bali's been a big pillar of that. They say that people come to Bali, and what it does is it exposes your shit very quickly. And people either run, or the ones that are brave enough to face it will sit here and fast track the process. And I'm sure that that's been something that you're also, aware of, and also we look around at our community, because, we attract those that are like us.
Well, for me, it's like something I'm thinking about, because I think doing is like, that's how you derive purpose to, and how you see yourself as part of that, of your role in the overall consciousness. So it's like, do you see it as a balance, or?
100%, it's got to be a balance. So my big thing was, because I was so go, like my business is called Get Shit Done. The reason why I called it like GSD Enterprise, it stands for Get Shit Done. Like the reason why I called it that is because the moment I started my own business,
Yeah.
I reflected on everything anybody had ever said to me in the business world. And a lot of people would use me as a prime example of just be like Lucy. She'd get shit done. She'd get shit done. So I was like, what a great business name. So I called it that, and it's actually served me a lot, because people want to work with a company that has been around for a few years, and it's called Get Shit Done, right? But being here in Bali and reflecting on what I was doing, because I was like a glorified marketing manager, I had a team around me that I'm able to kind of give little tasks here or there and the other, but I was struggling to let go of control.
Okay.
And I realized
and so,
you've got a little piece of...
And so just going from more doing to more being,
Yep.
was it more a well-being thing or also on mostly a performance thing?
So I've got a...
Because as you talk about
It's
it's
both.
almost for the business to work better too.
It's both,
Yeah.
honey. So, like, like I've found that it's both. Like, I've actually got a story. So I found myself burnt out, terrible skin, completely burnt out, working like 18-hour days. I was making great money. Like at the time, I was like, like 26, 27, like making great money. I could have stayed in that space, continued to grow in that space, maybe got a couple more team members and pushed some stuff off and been able to go buy the nice car and this, that and the other. But that's not what I wanted. I started waking up every morning pissed off that I couldn't help more people. I was getting people inquire about my services that sat in their heart and were my ideal clients, and I couldn't help them because I was too busy. And I knew that, and I was sitting there systemizing and building funnels and building these systems and automated machines for people, but I hadn't done it for myself. And then I came to Bali and I realized that I needed to stop trying to strap a rocket onto my bicycle.
Yeah.
My bicycle was the platform, right? Because it was too small. Because if you try and strap a rocket onto a bicycle, it'll flip. And then I realized that I had to rebuild. And then I actually started rebuilding something else, which was a car, and it was pretty much ready to launch, and I didn't feel like it was right to launch. And because for so long I've been growing and building this business, and I felt like I'd just built something that was also going to make me busier again. And I decided that it was time to listen to all the signs around me. And I was, little things were happening. Like a couple of my friends had motorcycle accidents. I kept stubbing my toe. I dropped my scooter. All these little things, all these little signs I was getting from kind of the universe to slow down.
Okay. Is that when you started your routine?
No, so I started my routine about 18 months ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and actually my routine now is very, very small.
Okay.
It was about 3.5 to 5 hours at one point, and now it's about 45 minutes because I'm flowing.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
It's like people who meditate for like 10 years and then they feel they don't need it because they're just in that state.
Yeah, they can be present enough that they don't even need it. So, so I guess going from that, I built something, and then I started getting all these signs from the universe to slow down, and I'd been doing all the reading and doing all the learning, and I'd transferred that personal development into the spiritual development, which is maybe, the last 5 months of my life. In February this year, I thought spirituality was, do we worry about that? No. No.
That's fine. We'll do this.
In February this year, I thought spirituality was seeing ghosts. And now I realize that it's not that at all. It's really just listening to your heart, following your soul, and surrendering to things that don't feel right. So, I talk to people now about that I'm surrendering and I'm not going to launch this thing and not going to do this, but I'm only going to do things that are a straight line. Things that serve my clients at an exceeding high level, that I'm only working with clients that I actually feel in my heart that they're in alignment with me. And I'm only doing things that excite me, and in turn I'm not pushing, I'm working less, and the things that are coming in because I've surrendered and gotten rid of a lot of clients that didn't feel right is actually bigger than I ever could have imagined. Because our brains can, our subconscious mind, right, like 95% of human beings, 95% of our brains and our thoughts are subconscious. So it's things that we've done before in the past. It's things that we've, routines and stories and habits that we've built up in our minds of things that we've done, and because of that, we're fearful of the other 5% that we can't actually tap into, which is the conscious mind. And the conscious mind is only really there when you're in presence. So that's why meditating is so helpful, because you're able to tap into that 5% of your conscious mind. And the conscious mind is when you've got you're able to convey all these new ideas, and you're able to dream. And based on those dreams, if we actually are able to take action on those dreams, we completely change our subconscious, because life is I believe that life is all about expanding your comfort zone. So we all start in a small circle as a child, and we don't know how to walk, right? And our parents, there's no way our parents aren't going to tell us, we fall down, they're not going to tell us it's all right, you don't have to walk. They're like, no, everybody else walks, you have to walk, right? So as a child, we get up and we stumble, and we get up and we stumble until we can walk. And what that does is it then expands our comfort zone. And when we become adults, we get into the space of programming based on everyone else around us and how much they're expanding their comfort zone, that we'll stay within our own. And that's why they say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Because if the people around you are going out and changing the world, then of course you're going to be able to change the world, because it's within your comfort zone, because you see everyone else around you doing it, and they've already got the steps to do it. So logically, it's easy.
For me, starting these online courses, for example, was one of my best friends from high school. He did these courses on artificial intelligence, and that really had a big impact. Selling to hundreds of thousands of people around the world. And they was like, oh, okay, so it's not these people somewhere that are so different. It's just
100%. So tapping into those networks is amazing. And that's what reading and reading and watching YouTube videos and then hearing stories of people, what that does with human beings is it allows us to connect with them and go, shit, he was where I was, and now he's there, shit, I can do that. And that's what my marketing company is all about. It's all about shining light and showing someone's truth, because not one person is going to fit with every single person in the world, but what you're going to do is you're going to find your tribe and find the people that connect with that message. Because if you can really connect, your audience, right, connect with you, if you really connect with him, which I'm sure you do, because he's a badass, if you really connect with you, and you're telling people your stories of where you were 2 years ago, and this slightly linear-ish line of your progression, or the skyrocketing progression of where you were and where you are now, people connect with that and they go, shit, he was there, I can do that as well.
Well, that's exactly the purpose of this podcast, actually, which is there are already a lot of amazing podcasts interviewing Arnold Schwarzenegger and all these. I know people who have done
but he's TED not relatable, talks. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And the point of this podcast, to me, is to interview people when obviously success is very subjective, but when they're not those famous, super successful people yet. And so people can see the path and where people, and they can look at. For example, 5 years from now, maybe you've done this and this, and then you're like, okay, that's where she 100%. Was at that time. I think that's something you can really relate to.
100%.
Can you talk about your morning routine?
My morning
routine? Explain it. Yeah.
Sure.
It's 3 to 5 hours seems like a lot.
Yeah, so what I did was about 18 months ago, I went to this course. I was in a really I started my business, and I actually wasn't conscious when I started my business. I was running on the wheel, frustrated, burnt out, all these things. And I kind of stopped one day and I was like, something has to change. And I went to this tiny little island, and the Cook Islands, this tiny little island, there's a few thousand people, and there's no internet. There was internet, but it was real hard to get on because there was only one server. And I kind of just I was quiet because I had nothing else to do, and I kind of sat there and reflected on my life and kind of took inventory of my life, did an 80-20 analysis of my life, what's the 20% that's bringing me 80% of my unhappiness? What's the 20% that's bringing me 80% of my happiness? What's the 20% that's bringing me in 80% of my income? What's the 20% that's bringing in 80% of my clients' results? Because this is Vilfredo Pareto's 80-20 rule. Look it up. It's amazing. It literally works with everything in life. And I did that for my life, and I realized that a couple of things, like the things that were bringing in the most for my clients, the things that were bringing in the most happiness for myself, and then based off that, I started to restructure my routines. So, and what I did was I started by making an agreement to myself first.
Okay.
So, because human beings, it takes a lot for us to change. So to have change, it's so hard to go completely cold turkey, or if you're a smoker, to go fully cold turkey, or if you've never gotten up early before, just to start getting up at 5 in the morning. No, that's so hard to do. So I broke it down, and I decided to make an agreement every single month. I was going to do one new thing.
Okay.
So I started with reading 10 minutes non-fiction every single day.
Okay.
Every single day. And I even did this when I was drunk. I'd come home and
Every
I
day.
didn't even remember what I was reading. I was drunk and I'd be reading.
It's like
I did some really inappropriate things while I was reading a couple of times.
it's like Tim Ferriss. He says if you want to start, for example, even just flossing your teeth,
Yeah.
start every day, just floss one.
Yeah.
Just one.
Yeah.
Start like this and do it every day.
100%. And then what I did is I went Super
So
Saiyan
you
on
chunked it.
I went Super Saiyan.
Okay.
And I decided that every single month I was going to make a new agreement, and I was going to stack it, right?
Okay.
Because I'm a get shit doneer, and
Yeah.
I wasn't really going with the flow.
Then it was more than 24 hours.
Actually, so every month I had a
Okay.
new one, and I had a new one, and
How
I
did it
kept
look at
the
the
other
end?
ones. How did it look?
the end, yeah,
well, you
the-
can go
the
on my
max one.
Instagram and you can see there's a photo, and I'm sitting there overlooking a beach, my legs crossed, my tits look really big in it, so you're welcome. And there's a list of 18 things. So literally, it was this regiment. It was I get up every morning at 7. It was 6:50, 5:51
Okay.
every single morning. Get up, brush my teeth. I'd make my bed. I'd do my gratitude. I'd journal for 10 to 15 minutes. I'd meditate for 20 minutes. I'd then get up and go to yoga for an hour, and then I'd come home, have a cold shower, listen to personal development while in the shower, have a coffee, and then have a smoothie bowl, and then I'd start work. And that would literally take me about 3 hours,
Okay.
2.5, 3 hours.
Nice.
But also I wouldn't have my phone would be on airplane mode the whole time.
That's
So-
important.
Oh, so important. And what that did was that gave the morning to me for the first time in my life. And because I had those 3 hours, I stopped becoming reactive in every situation. I was proactive in every situation. And because I'd given myself that time, I had these deep flow states in my work. So I started working, I think I was doing maybe 5 or 6 hours at that point, and I would have done a week's worth of work a day. And I was so productive, getting so much done. And then now I reflect back on that, I see that I was getting so much done, but I wasn't getting that much done for myself. I actually didn't grow my business much at all. I was just getting a lot done because I had given myself more hours, and I tended to be clogging those hours with more people's
Well,
stuff.
that's sometimes the difference between this efficiency and efficacy. It's Tim Ferriss makes this distinction pretty well, which is if you climb a ladder very fast, but your ladder's leaning against the wrong wall, well, it's not as good as if you put your ladder on the right wall in the first place.
100%. 100%.
And I think I like meditation for this. It gives me more clarity.
Yeah.
Also not being disturbed and these things. Not only there's one part, you focus, you're more productive, okay, but also what do you work on? And I find these kind of routines help with this too.
100%. 100%. What you're working on is the most important thing. And because I was in that space of go, and I was manifesting because of that, because of my routines, and because I'd stopped drinking. I stopped drinking because drinking didn't really serve me, and I was I was kind of getting a kick out of all of it. and all my clients were having such great results, and I was so happy, and all these things like were amazing. And because I was doing my practices so strictly, I started manifesting incredible things because I completely retrained my subconscious to exactly what I wanted.
I actually didn't hear about a part on like manifestation in your routine.
Yeah, so my manifestation was like I had a
And just to people, like manifestations kind of how
if
would
you
explain
think
it?
something, it shows up.
Yeah.
Like literally you think something and it shows up.
Like if you've read The Law of Attraction, if you want to hear
if
more
you read
about
like the Law of Attraction, The Secret, Think and Grow Rich. So what I did was I actually read Think and Grow Rich, and I listened to it every morning, and I had a page, it started with 2 pages and then it ended up being like 8 pages of exactly what I wanted to manifest. And these were things like money, like financial goals. These were who I wanted to work with, where I wanted to live, the relationship that I wanted to be in, like all of these things,
Basically,
right?
you really picture and feel
Well,
who you
I
want to be, and
manifested
you
this
become
house.
to be this. Yeah.
This is my house. This is my house. This is my house. Ah! And before that,
Good
I was
swimming
living
pool.
in New Zealand. I was living in New Zealand, like,
Oh, New Zealand's beautiful.
oh, New Zealand's amazing, but it's not Bali. Like, it's not freedom.
Okay.
Like, I wanted freedom, and now I have freedom. Like, I'm actually leaving here today, and I'm going to Sydney, and then after that, I don't know where I'm going because I'm free. Like, I work from a laptop. I follow the flow. I've realized that like I don't have to have the safety barrier on money anymore because the universe always provides me what I need.
And did you trying to become more intuitive? Because you're saying now you go with the flow. How do you think, like was it the routine that gave you this shift, and then you felt you had less need for it?
Yes.
Or was it something else?
The routine was actually the biggest game changer in my life.
Okay.
Because, you know, reading those intentions every morning, and I didn't just read them like blah, like a book. It was like I would read them and then I would be them. I would already see myself having it. And in doing that, it's already on its way to you. And I know that sounds kind of floaty, and I didn't really believe it either, to be honest, guys. And then it started happening, and I was like, whoa. And then I've got heaps of people around me that are like, I've never met anybody that manifests this fast. And I'm like, whoa, like you're probably right, but I don't even think about that because it's already done.
And just to go back on the law of attraction, so there's a part that can seem a bit far-fetched for a very rational mind like me, is that whatever you really put in your mind and you know, picturing and feeling who you want to be, the law of attraction tells you that the universe is going to give you that.
Yeah.
But
You have to take action.
yeah, and if you take action, but and that can be debatable, but what is not really debatable is that when you put yourself in the shoes of that person, at least your actions are gonna be more in line. So for example, if I tell myself, I imagine myself, I'm a podcast host, and like it's who I am, I'm gonna ask people to be on my show, I'm gonna be more comfortable. While if I think in my subconscious that I'm an imposter, you know, it's not gonna happen well. And there's nothing magical in it, it's just how I'm gonna act.
Yep.
And then the second part of it, which is the one where I'm not completely sold, but I don't really know, is the one that where actually the universe plays on top of you and your subconscious actually going towards it too.
Yeah.
But in your vision, there's definitely also the other part, which is it's not like if I picture myself being this, okay, I'll take action, I'll be this more, but also the universe is gonna serve me on top of it.
Yeah, and I believe that like it all comes down to like with your manifesting, the master manifestors are the ones that there's no bullshit, it's truth. They're the ones that are facing their stuff. They're stripping themselves of, you know, those victim mentalities, and when you don't get what you want, it's not like oh, poor me, like this didn't happen to me. Because I learned something the other day, like the universe, like this universe, right, is the cosmos, like that's what it's called kind of in spiritual terms, like the cosmos. And what the cosmos means is it actually means order. So that means that everything is actually in order. So if something bad happens to you, it's actually because something better is coming. But a lot of us fixate ourselves on that negative thing and go, oh, that happened to me, poor me, poor me, poor me, poor me, poor me. And it's like, well, maybe that happened to you because something better is coming. And if we just take that lesson of every situation, because I don't believe there's any failures in life, if we take that lesson, and then think about what we really want and put that intention out to the universe, because we're all like, we have these dreams of what we want, and a lot of us don't even tell anybody what our desires are. Like, we need to call that in. Like, we need to sit there every morning and read what we actually want, because how
do you reconcile it with going with the flow? Because sometimes I'm like, okay, law of attraction, I want to be this, I want to be that, I want to help that many people, or I want to manifest a beautiful house, versus I trust the universe to just give me, to bring me what's going to be right for me. Like, I feel sometimes in the manifestation part there's a bit of not trusting the universe, because you're a bit like, that's who I want to be, or I need to be in like 5 years, versus sometimes I'm just like, I'm fine with everything and I let the flow carry me.
Well, I think the thing is, at the very root of all of it, there's so many people that will be like, I want this and I want that, but if your why isn't strong enough and you really don't have that desire in yourself and you don't believe it, then it's not going to happen. So for example, if I'm like, I want to win $34 million, right? And I actually don't really care about money, because at the moment, like, I live a pretty amazing life and I don't actually need anywhere near that much money. Like, I'd like to fly private or whatever, right? But my desire to fly private isn't actually that strong. Yeah. So it really comes back to the root of sitting in your heart and asking yourself, what do you really want? And like, the reason why I want to be able to be location free is because I want to be able to travel to see the people I love and see my friends, and I want to be able to travel for work and travel for my purpose, and have freedom to do that. That's that doesn't come down to a question of money. It's like, yes, I want financial freedom, but it's like, well, why do you want financial freedom? It's like, well, I want financial freedom for that.
Yeah, but it's more about the do you picture yourself where you want to be in 5 years, for example?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Because
some people use the law of attraction for this.
I used to do that. I used to do the where do I want to be in 5 years, but I believe human beings overestimate what they can do in a year and well underestimate what they can do in 5. And what that does is it then puts constraints on exactly what we want. And if, for example, you've got this goal at the moment, you're in a job making $40,000 a year. If you want to make $150,000 and be like, cool, in 5 years I want to make $150,000, that's going to be your line, right? Be like, cool, what do I have to do to make $150,000? But if you're like, no, I want to make $10 million, then all of a sudden your line's up here, and what you're going to do is your trajectories and your action is going to be more aligned with this rather than this. And you'd be shocked that probably within a year, if you've got that confidence and you actually think in 5 years you can make that $10 million, you're probably making 200 grand in a year, if that's your confidence level, right? Because that's your linear line. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. I think people, we're quite educated to think it's a bit arrogant to want the best for ourselves. I don't know where it comes from, maybe from my Judeo-Christian background and the things, but I think there's no reason not to aim higher.
I believe that every desire that is planted in us as a human being, that actually is a desire that's in our heart. That is a desire that, if you continue to ask yourself why, it comes back to, because I want to help the people I love, because I want to help the people around me, because something to do that's usually very selfless. If you sit in your heart, not like, I want to be on a plane so that people look at me and think I'm amazing. Like, no. If these desires actually come back, to your heart, then I believe it's so out of it. I don't. I just completely lost my train of thought.
Okay.
What was the question?
No, it was like more on if it's not true for you, if it doesn't come from your heart, like you were talking about desires that needs to come from your heart.
Where was that? 100%. So all your desires, they need to come from your heart.
Yeah.
And if they don't, you're probably not going to manifest them.
But I think what we're saying is that deep down, your most profound desires, the ones from your heart, they are selfless, right?
Yeah.
And so there's nothing to be ashamed in wanting
That's what I was going to say.
Desires.
That's what I was going to say. So I believe that every desire that's in you, that is like deep down in your heart, like if you sit with a meditation and ask yourself, what do I really want? And you write it down, and it might be a family, it might be a nice house, might be to travel, to have complete freedom. I believe that every single desire that is true in your heart was planted there by the same thing that blooms these flowers. Nature grows every single day, and it just follows the laws. Like, there's no way, if a tree is planted in the grass and it's given the right sun and the right water, the right amount of sun and the right amount of water, like, we can't tell it to stop growing. Like, it's gonna grow. And I believe that as a human being, those desires were planted in us for the exact same reason, and we question them from a place of ego, because ego completely consumes our lives, and it's messed up. And I believe that it's important to have an element of ego, because it's a security thing, like it's a safety thing in our heads, because if we didn't have any ego, we wouldn't really have anywhere to go, and we'd kind of just be like, oh yeah, everything's cool. But no, we still have to take action. But yeah, I believe that every desire is planted there in us for a reason.
Do you think you can't take action without the ego?
I definitely think, 100%, we definitely can take action without the ego, because I believe that, for example, you and I, the reason we're taking action, I don't think that comes from a place of ego at all. I believe that comes from a place of our heart.
Well, I know, for me, for example, I know sometimes it comes from ego, and I can recognize it, and I try to sublimate this into positive things, but I know it comes from there. But I think, because I'm not Jesus or the Buddha, I'm trying to, but it takes a bit of time. And so I can recognize sometimes when it comes from the ego, and sometimes when it comes from more, let's say, evolutionary sources. But I'm not sure I need the ego part. I'm sublimating it, but and it's helpful, but I'm not sure I need it. That's
I've fought the ego for a long time, and I've even been having these conversations with people and been like, well, that's ego, and if there's anyone that seems like they're in a place of ego, and I'll ask them questions, right, if I'm going to pull them into my business, and there'll be like egotistical questions, and they'll give me egotistical answers that are like more about elevating them and elevating their self rather than co-creating. Whereas co-creation would have a much bigger impact than a singular activity, and I'll like fight it, and I've fought it for a long time, but I've got so many beautiful people in my space that continue to remind me that ego is actually not a bad thing. Like, ego keeps us safe, and it's the detachment and the acknowledgement of our ego that allows us to make the biggest impact. If it comes back to ego for me, like, why am I doing what I'm doing? And
what's the impact you want to have?
What do I want?
The impact. What's the impact you want to have?
I want to change global consciousness. I want to raise the vibration of the planet. I want to show everybody what's already inside them, that they can live this life as well, that none of us are any different. That.
Do you think you're happier when you're more conscious?
Oh my God, I'm so much happier. Like, I was so unhappy. Like, I was so destructive and so unhappy, and going out and just getting wasted, and like waking up in the morning feeling anxious and bad, and in those states doing things, saying things to people, and that were actually from a state of a mirror perspective of I'd say something negative about someone, and it's actually what I hated about myself. Now that I'm in that reflection of consciousness, and now I just every day, like, with those routines. So my routines have changed a lot now since I'm in flow. Since I surrendered and I got rid of a lot of the clients that aren't in alignment, I got rid of a lot of the things that I was doing that aren't in alignment. A lot more came in. Like, I got opportunities to co-create with all these people, and now, like, I have opportunities to make 10 times more money and work like 5% of what I was. And I'm sitting more in my alignments, and that were already there, but when I stopped, it was only when I stopped that I realized, that they were there.
So impact definitely raising the consciousness of the people you work with, so they can have a more beautiful life.
Raising the consciousness of
or of the people, everyone that comes across what you're doing.
Yeah, like.
Where do you think we're going with this? Because you're pretty confident.
It's not me. It's not me, right? It's like my purpose isn't to raise the to have these conversations and raise your consciousness.
Yeah.
Like, that's not my purpose. I think that's part of a collective purpose.
Well, let's say to take how I think of it for me is to kind of participate in an elevation of consciousness that's happening
I believe that we all need
to help it.
I believe that what's in the making
Yeah.
and that I'm going to be part of is a platform that allows us all to co-create and have a little piece of the pie and massively shift global consciousness and show everybody what's already inside them. For a long time my ego was saying, when someone would ask me that question, my ego would say, I want to change the world, and there's so many people that are like, I want to change the world, and my get shit done attitude was like, I want to change the world, like I'm just going, like all my clients have started a marketing company that works with like coaches and consultants, and they're all like having butterfly effects of massive impact, but it still isn't big enough. It's still not big enough. And we're, in Bali, there's people having the conversation, there's people frustrated with the conversation, but in Bali we see these changes, but like how exponential is that going? There's like other low vibrational countries that are low consciousness because of like their pain bodies, right? Because so much negative things have happened in those spaces, and because of that it's like affecting the energy of everyone. Anyway, that's for another conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I believe that at the moment, like it all starts with us. Like, if you're doing this because you've had such a major shift and like your happiness is so much more elevated. Like, I was never depressed.
Yeah.
And I'm so lucky that I was never depressed, but my traumas came from seeing people I love be in major pain. Like, there's a lot of drug addiction in my family. There's a lot of pain, and I chose a different path because I couldn't deal with that pain. And now I'm so grateful that those pains in my family have then shifted and elevated them.
That's cool.
But I believe that it all starts with us. Like, if we are willing and committed to make the change, and like for me that started with my daily routines, we're willing and committed to making the change. Like, if we can go out there and impact like one little person one at a time, like we can all do that right now.
But start impacting yourself.
Yeah, like it always starts with you, right? Like, I believe that like I'm, be the one that
Be the change you seek to see in the world.
be the
This is
change
like
that you want to
Gandhi.
see in the world, right? Yeah, it's like a Gandhi thing. And that I'm committing myself now in my surrender. I'm committing myself to a higher order. And in doing that, like, I've surrendered a lot in my business. I've surrendered a lot in my life. I've surrendered people. There's people that, I've had to say goodbye to, friends and all that kind of stuff. And because of that, and because of my surrender, it's allowing me to step further and further and further and further and further back. And as I do that and I sit in my soul, bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger opportunities come in. And I believe that I'm going to be part of a global movement in shifting consciousness and showing everybody what's already inside of them. And I believe the ones that are being called to that order right now are the ones that sit in their hearts and sit in their souls, because they're the only ones that people can actually connect with and resonate with, just like you.
Thank you.
You
That's so
know?
beautiful. I always finish these interviews with a hug. Hugs are the best too.
I love hugs. I love hugs.
That's so
I love
beautiful. And thanks. Were you done with this?
I think so.
How can people follow you?
How can people follow me?
Yeah.
Follow me on Instagram at Lucy_Prebble. Yeah, that's probably the best. Or my website, gsd-enterprises.com. But there's new things coming. Things coming. Just kind of following the flow and going with whatever it is, and I'm calling in, the highest order that I can, because I believe that our minds, we can't even fathom what we can actually do. Because our subconscious, 95% of our thoughts are all retrained from things that we've done before. And actually, I'd like to share one analogy that always kind of helps people. That if we go back to the very start of this interview, and I talked about the comfort zone, that we start here in this comfort zone, and our core, like a core thing as human beings that we're sent here for, I think, is to extend that comfort zone. So there's a story about they were trying to break through the sound barrier, and they had all of these astronauts like go up into the atmosphere and shoot along trying to break the sound barrier, and they were going so incredibly fast that the machine would start, like the rocket or whatever, the plane would start kind of breaking apart, and they'd start shaking, and even their bodies, like molecules of their bodies would like start coming apart, and they immediately would pull back and go, nah, I'm not going to do this. It's going to kill me. I'm going to die. I got a family. I'm not going to do this. And this happened over and over and over and again. And then one guy came up and he's like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to take one for the team. I'm going to take one for the Earth, and I'm just going to do it. And he gets up there in his rocket. He shoots along, and he starts going faster and faster and faster. And the rocket starts like kind of starting to break up and shaking like uncontrollably, and his kind of body starts coming apart. And he has a split-second moment, and he says to himself, shit, I'm going to die. I need to pull back. Right, the subconscious brain, because he's never done it before, and nobody else has done it. And then he said to himself, you know what, fuck this, I'm just going to go for it. And he just punches it, and straight away it goes from this crazy uncontrollable mess to poof. And that's what happens when you break through the comfort zone. When everything seems really messy in your life because you're doing something completely different, we can either choose to back down and live the same life that we've always been living, or we can choose to push through that comfort zone of something that we've never done before. And you know, everything we've ever dreamt of is outside of what we've done before. Our dreams are always outside of our comfort zone, and you know, we only live once, and we're not actually here for that long of a time. Like, how's it already Christmas, you know? So I urge you to, you know, even if it's one little thing, do one thing out of your comfort zone every single day, even if it's just going up to someone and saying hello. Because what that does, it starts to retrain your subconscious to make tangible change. And tangible change, like, it's what Einstein says, right? Like, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same result. Now, to have change, you have to take action, and you have to do something you've never done before. It's as simple as that. And the beauty of technology is we have access to things like this. We have books, we have all these things that can show us that people have already done this before and the results that they've got because of it. Like, just be brave, and I swear, like, you're gonna be rewarded.
Listen to her. That's really beautiful advice. Thank you, Lucy.
That's all right.
And yeah, definitely go for it. Listen to her. And here we're in the beautiful villa, but most of it isn't even really about that. It's about connecting with beautiful people.
Yeah.
Feeling like we're contributing to, you know, making life better for ourselves, but also for other people.
Yep.
So it's definitely worth it. Yeah,
100%.
beautiful advice.
It's definitely worth it. Bali is 1/4 cheaper than what I was paying in New Zealand. Like, for what I pay at this place, I was paying more than this a week. Like, what I pay here a month, I was paying more than that a week in New Zealand. So, you know, it's like, it's all just a reframe. It's a reframe. And everyone tells you can't do it, and it's because they're living in that bubble. Like, fuck that bubble. Create your own bubble.
So much passion. I love it. That's the end of the episode.
Thank you, honey.
With another big hug. Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you.
Super
Thanks,
interesting.
guys.
Thanks, guys.
Perfect.